We now shift our focus and discuss the overall professionalisation of local government. We are joined by Local Government Programme Head of the Public Affairs Research Institute, that's Dr. Thina Nzo. Good evening, Doctor. Thank you very much for joining us on The Full View. Now, before we get to the professionalisation of the sphere of government, let's start with your reaction to the Auditor General's report on the local government audit outcomes. Are you surprised in any way by the regression in clean audits?
Firstly, let me greet you and your viewers this evening. I am not entirely surprised, although I should say that it's a very damning report. Because if you look at that report, you only find that only one metro has actually managed to get a clean audit, and that's City of Cape Town. I mean, City of Cape Town has been very consistent over the years in making sure that it performs up to the teeth when it comes to its financial management systems. So it says a lot about all these other metropolitan areas. And for me, what it also says is that since we have the majority of these metropolitan areas governed through coalition governments, and we've seen how instability within the political framework of coalition partnerships have actually had a bearing in poor service delivery, but also it means that it has a bearing in actually monitoring the performance of its executive.
Now, the Auditor General emphasized yesterday that a clean audit, when we speak of the 34 though, out of the 257, doesn't necessarily mean services were delivered satisfactorily. She said a clean audit, however, places you in a better position to deliver on your mandate. So it's the very basics that municipalities are struggling with here. The compiling of service delivery reports and compliance with procurement processes. So if this is the reality, where will they actually start with the overall professionalization of the sphere of government?
Well, it actually begins with the administration. Let's first start with the administration. There are two spheres in a municipal institution. That's the administration, which is in charge of the implementation of council policies, implementation of the IDP, supporting to draw up the budget, but also making sure that when they do their spending, the spending is in compliant with the Municipal Finance Management Act. So it means that there is a serious problem in the administration, and the accounting officer has the authority to provide administrative management over his departments. Now, if you look at the Auditor General's report with regards to the budget and treasury officers, it means that there is poor capacity. I mean, one of the things that just keeps on coming back time and time and again is the fact that most municipalities are using consultants to support them. So that means that there is no internal capacity or the upskilling or actually, bringing in new skills through training that is needed within the administration.
But the most interesting part, pardon me for interjecting there, that on the element of consultants, the use of consultants or reliance on them, it seems that even though they relied heavily on the consultants, they still couldn't get greater audit outcomes.
Well, it means that when you look at the Budget and Treasury Office, particularly in the office that is actually looking at compliance issues, when you look at auditing processes, you need to make sure that all the documentation throughout your processes, even through procurement, all your documentation are properly filed. So it means that internally there is no proper systems that actually make sure that all these documents are properly filed, so that when your consultants come through, by the time when you have to do audit preparations, at least there is a portfolio of evidence that is available. So there are no control systems that actually manage the documentation filing as a portfolio of evidence. So clearly there are problems there, bigger problems than we have ever thought.
Doctor, I want to take you back to your statement around there being two spheres within this local government sphere. You were speaking about the administration or administrative function that you've just expanded on, but I take it you're about to go to also then the politics of everything, which now brings us to the point where constantly we keep hearing of the need to depoliticize the administrative function within local government. Just talk to us about the problems in the politics now in local government.
Absolutely. Right now, we are faced with a situation where the Department of Cooperative Governance had brought in the Municipal Systems Amendment Act back in 2021. But that Municipal Systems Amendment Act was actually brought in 2010. Many years ago, which sought to professionalize the local government sphere. But when the bill landed up in Parliament in 2021, there was resistance that was actually experienced via that process of consultation with all the stakeholders, particularly coming from the unions. So what was mostly significant for me in this bill was that it was talking to issues related to senior managers or even junior managers, or even just ordinary staff members in the administration holding political office in political parties. So once you have a senior manager or any other manager holding political office, it means that there is a blurred roles and responsibility. So there would be these political values that would be actually transferred into a municipal institution where you have an administrator who's supposed to be, imbibed in professional values, ethical values. So there was that blurring of these roles and responsibilities.
And there was a big fight from unions. There was a big fight on this. They really waged a fight to say you cannot infringe on citizens' rights to be active in any political party, irrespective of whether they're working for a municipality. So it was quite the debate.
Absolutely. I mean, we understand that it's an encroachment when it comes to the Bill of Rights, but we need to understand the deeper essence of what this means. What it actually means is that if you're a senior manager holding that political position, you will be using your political position to influence decision-making in an institution. And we all know that the patronage system that is actually embedded in local government is one of the givings that we have found that have actually eroded these professional values, particularly when it comes to compliance in legislation. So that's the fundamental problem that we have there. But what the other point that I was trying to make as well is the issue of the political sphere council. Council has got portfolio committees. Council has the responsibility of providing oversight. There are portfolio committees such as the MPAC, the Municipal Public Accounts Committee. You have the Audit Committee, which is a standing committee. You've got a Finance Committee. Do we have the necessary capacity in those committees where political leaders who are sitting there as chairpersons are able to execute their oversight role? Because they sit on a monthly basis. They review financial reports on a quarterly basis. So what is it that is not being done to preempt the negative audit outcomes that come at the end of the financial year?
But now that we're here, Doctor, do you think perhaps the MMs, the municipal managers and CFOs, should be held accountable for these poor audit outcomes?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, like what I'm saying, the oversight structure of a municipality, which is council, should actually be exercising, what we call consequence management. Are you actually tightening the loose screws to hold the accounting officer accountable for repetitive offences in the bad outcomes that come out on an annual basis? Are they actually creating any incentivized schemes that could actually make sure that the accounting officer tries to turn around the situation? So right now we have repeated offenders, but you don't see any action being taken on the ground in terms of actually holding the municipal manager accountable, or when there are financial transgressions, the MPAC actually plays a much more pivotal role, effective role in making sure that those who committed transgressions are actually taken through legal recourse.
I suppose if it's any comfort, we know that last week an interministerial task team was actually established to look into, it will be headed by COPTA, of course, Minister Thina Nzo, and the look into dysfunctional municipalities. Maybe as national government they can assist in this respect. But Doctor, thank you very much for your time this evening. That was Local Government Program Head of the Public Affairs Research Institute, Dr. Thina Nzo.